The other day, I posted a highlight reel of a famous Jiu-Jitsu fighter on my Facebook page, and right away, a friend of mine, a training partner of mine, a purple belt, texted me and said, "Hey, that stuff looks really cool. Can you show it to me, and can we train it?" And I advocated caution. I said, sure, that's really effective stuff, but the trouble of throwing it into your game is going to take a lot more time than you think it's going to take. So the fighter in question was Rafa Mendes. The move in particular was the berimbolo, but this applies to adding just about any technique to your game, from any position, the guard, the top, whatever, it doesn't matter. Let me explain. Whenever you bring a new technique in, you have to ask yourself, is it congruent with what you already do, with what you're already good at? Now, when you're a white belt, you're not good at anything really. So you're going to be learning isolated techniques all over the place. You're going to be learning this escape from mount. You're going to be learning this attack from side mount. You're going to be learning this sweep from the guard. So this doesn't really apply to you. You're just in an information deluge situation. You're just hoping to learn a bunch of stuff that you can use in your matches, and you'll eventually start building a coherent game. But once you've got the basic assemblage of techniques down, now you're talking about beginning to tailor all those techniques while still exploring new techniques. So let's take a look at the berimbolo, and then we'll take a look at some other examples. The berimbolo is what on the surface looks like this crazy inverting spinning back take from De La Riva guard. It's not as complicated to do as you might think. I've seen 55-year-old guys learn it. I've taught 55-year-old guys. I've also seen 300-pound monsters do it. So it's not just a little guy move. It's not just a super flexible guy move. It's a move that, so long as you have half-decent flexibility, half-decent, not great, half-decent flexibility, you can start incorporating into your game. But my friend is a half-guard specialist. He uses kind of a lockdown half-guard and a knee shield half-guard and a close guard. So close guard, knee shield, and lockdown. Trouble is, the berimbolo comes from the De La Riva guard, where you're sitting up and wrapping your foot around the outside of your opponent's thigh. So let's say somebody teaches you the berimbolo from the De La Riva guard. Yes, you can do the berimbolo from other positions. You can use it as a guard pass. You can use it as an attack from side mount. But fundamentally, most of the time, it gets pulled off from De La Riva. So let's say that you practice this. Now you start trying to use it in sparring. Very, very quickly, you'll realize you'll think you'll realize this technique doesn't work. I can't ever pull it off on anybody. It has nothing to do with the berimbolo. It has everything to do with the De La Riva. The position, you don't know it yet. If this is assuming that you're working some other kind of guard, like the closed guard or the half guard, you don't know the things that make the De La Riva guard stick. You don't know how to off-balance the guy there. You don't know how to fight for your grips from there. You don't know how to stop his guard pass attempts. That's probably the most important. So every time you're thinking, I've got the De La Riva and now I'm going to go for the berimbolo, it's too late. Because if you're fighting somebody of quality, they've already cut through. They've already passed because you didn't know how to counter it. So it's not just a question of learning the berimbolo, it's a question of learning all the stuff around the De La Riva. Similarly, if you were a butterfly guard specialist, where your feet go inside your opponent's legs, and then you're trying to also develop a De La Riva attack, where one of your legs goes around the outside, that's two very different positions. In the butterfly guard, you're sitting up, both feet are inside. In the De La Riva guard, you're lying back, one leg is wrapped around. The gripping games are quite different for those two positions too. So butterfly guard is great, De La Riva guard is great. To make the transition from one to the other is going to be more work than if you were working on a technique that was already congruent with what you're doing. So just be prepared that it's going to take a little bit longer to make the transition. Same thing applies to, say, the spider guard. Let's say you're a closed guard specialist and you see this really cool sweep from spider guard, or somebody tells you, hey, the kite sweep from spider guard is a super powerful sweep. And it is. It's a great way to sweep somebody, even if they're bigger than you. So the kite sweep. All right, so I'm going to have my closed guard attacks, and then I'm going to have this kite sweep. Once again, you don't have to develop the kite sweep as much as you have to develop all the structure of the spider guard. You have to learn how to get the grips for the spider guard. You have to learn how to get the spider guard from other positions. You have to learn how to stop someone from passing your spider guard. If you just have this sweep, the kite sweep, out in isolation, and you're hoping that the person's just going to sit there in your crappy, undeveloped spider guard and then be swept by it, you've got another thing coming. That's not going to work. It's because every technique that you bring in, every new position you bring in, either connects to your game or it doesn't connect to your game. Two positions that connect really well, for example, are the knee shield half guard and the deep half guard. You can go from the knee shield or Z guard to the deep half, and from the deep half back to the Z guard. Very easy. So techniques from one position are rather easy to learn if you're already familiar with the other position. That's an example of two very congruent positions, and they're very, very congruent attacks. For example, if you're good at the collar choke from mount, you're probably also well advised to get good at the armbar from mount, because collar choke and armbar and collar choke, those things go together very well. But say you have a great collar choke from mount, and then you're like, I know what'll go well with a collar choke, the dismount and knee bar. I like dismounting, I like knee barring, but I'm not fooling myself by saying that they connect well to the collar choke. You want to build a game that's congruent. Now, to go back to an earlier point, say you're a butterfly guard specialist and you really want to start working your De La Riva techniques. Say you're a De La Riva specialist and you really want to start working your butterfly techniques. Is it a problem? No, not at all. Just realize it's going to take more time to learn a new butterfly guard sweep than it is going to take to learn a new De La Riva sweep if you're already good at the De La Riva. And the same thing the other way around. Once you start going outside your comfort zone, things are going to take more time. So not to discourage you, just to let you know that adding new techniques is more work if they're not already congruent, because you have to learn not only the technique, but all the stuff around it. You have to learn the basics of that position. You have to learn the basics of that grip fighting. You have to learn the basics of that guard pass prevention, or getting there, or establishing it, or maintaining it, whatever that position is. So, enjoy your berimboloing. I'll put a link up somewhere, maybe in the description, to a video that I did about the easiest way to learn the berimbolo, but this really applies to any technique that you run into in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.